often refer to us, to you creative people, and I'm never sure what to think of that. I'm never sure what people mean, because often I think people mean you're a little bit weird, or
Yeah.
like last week's milk, just slightly off. When I heard about International Creativity Day, I was very excited about the idea, because I believe creativity is kind of baked into our DNA.
Yeah, it is.
I think it's part of who we are as humans.
Mm.
I think we all have those seeds inside of us, and we maybe have a little bit of a misunderstanding of what creativity is and what creativity looks like.
Yeah, and funny you should say that. People say, oh, you must be one of those creatives. That's often people that are now not analytical, You're clearly not an engineer or into maths. But the fact is, we all create. I mean, God created something out of nothing, and in that chaos, there was order. I mean, you don't have to only be a creative type, who might enjoy dressing in bright colors and have a bit of a crazy hairstyle. But at the end of the day, we're all making something out of nothing somewhere.
Yeah, I love that you're referencing Genesis 1.
Yeah.
That's just one of my favorite parts of the Bible. Because, first of all, we don't read it like that because we don't read the original language, well, most of us. But the Bible starts out with a poem.
Yes.
In the original language, it's a poem, Barashit bara Elohim. It's like this powerful thing, and that the word that we translate as create there, bara, is the word that means to make something out of nothing, and often we think that's where the creative story stops.
Okay.
And that's just part of it, because at that point God looks at it, and instead of saying this is good, it says His Spirit was on the water. He looked at this.
Wow.
The Hebrew word there is tohu vavohu. It's just fun to say, which means chaos, and you
Yes.
referred to that. And God's righteous anger saw it and went like, this is not what this is supposed to be. We're not done here.
Yes.
We're still in process. And from that point on, God kind of separates stuff, and He brings order, and He makes things work. And every time that happens, we hear it is good.
Yeah.
It is good. Creativity becomes good when it brings order, when it brings clarity.
Yes.
So often we think of creative expression, and we think of people doing these weird dances or interpreted things, and nobody can understand what it means. And really, that's not the essence of godly creativity, because
Yes.
godly creativity brings clarity. It clarifies. It does not mystify. It doesn't leave us in the dark, and that's beautiful for me from the creation story. How that flows to the point where God then says, Let's make man in our image.
And it's funny though, creativity, we are creative as people, but so often we're only really using what God has already created, and we're bringing all of these different elements together, whether it is colors, the colors we use or the colors we see around us. So we're really just taking what God has already created, and we are bringing our own spin onto it.
Yeah, and that looks differently for each one of us.
Yes.
You mentioned engineers, and there's one of the graphic designers that we work with at our Pretoria branch that hates it when I say it. I often tell her, all engineers are artists, but not all artists are engineers.
Yes.
Because what they do is they take lots of information, lots of numbers and things, and they make sense of it, make it useful, although it's very often very orderly and in a very structured way. And I think maybe that's the thing. Maybe we see creative as unstructured and everything else as structured, where if you think of the music of Bach, it's so mathematical. And it's beautiful, and it's powerful, and it's overwhelming, and it's so structured. So I think one of the things that I often hear is people will after the You Creative people will say something like, I'm really just not creative. And that's just not true.
Yeah.
And I think one of my missions in life is to get people to just shift their minds to a place where they embrace the creativity that has been put in them in the way that it's been put in them, whether it's very structured or very loose, whatever.
Yeah, but we have this thing that we say, I can't draw, or someone can say, I can't sing. Some people sing really well, but we can all sing. It just wouldn't necessarily be enjoyed by everybody. But we all have a way of expressing ourselves. We just rate ourselves. I'm either really good at it or I'm not good. But that doesn't mean I can't do it at all.
And again, it's a thing of maybe not everybody sings well. Not everybody should sing. Shouldn't lead worship in your church. Whatever. Jesus sees your heart, but we hear your voice.
Yeah.
But we should maybe broaden our idea of worship and be able to look at that beautifully engineered bridge
Yes.
and also give glory to God. Because it's also an expression, and the whole earth, everything is shouting out how great He is, but we choose to look at very specific things as those expressions. And I read, I don't particularly enjoy all these books, but Robin Sharma has this one saying in one of his books that I really went like, I want to make this my own. To just really adore mastery,
Yes.
in whatever form. When somebody's mastering something, it's a beautiful thing. It's a worshipful act. I was looking at a guy wrapping luggage at the airport, and I was thinking, if I had to do that, I would be wrapped up with that bag now.
Yes.
And just that idea of, here's this guy, he's really mastered his craft, and we should look at that and see it as that, and not only look at certain things, and certain things are more enjoyable. We're never going to have American luggage wrapper programs or stuff. Singing is more enjoyable, but
Yes.
but just taking that moment, spotting that person that's mastering what he's doing in whatever.
Yeah, I
place it
feel
is.
like that watching like the French Open tennis when somebody plays this amazing forehand and then slides like that on the clay, and has played a winning shot, and you watch that and you say, wow, that is years of dedication, of skill, of talent, you've put that together, you've actually taken what God has given you and you've taken it to that level of, look at me on the world stage. That's appreciation of that.
Yeah, absolutely, and that person might not realize that they're busy with an act of worship.
Correct.
But that doesn't take away from it.
Mhm.
That is what it is.
Yeah.
We need to start recognizing these things. There's a Jewish saying that says, every bush is burning with God's presence, but not everybody stops to take off their shoes.
Yes. Isn't that amazing?
And I think it's that thing where we need to just sometimes stop and just go like, everything around me is worshiping right now. I'm just not taking it in. Let me take it in for a minute.
How often we're missing a sunrise or a sunset. We're awake, but we're busy with other things. It's there in all of its glory, and we completely ignore it because we've found something else that we feel is more important to do. I think if we all just took more time to appreciate not only God's creation, but what's around us, as you've said, I think it can often change our attitude, because we're often living in lack, or where's God, or in this difficult situation, and we become so self-obsessed. If we would just be able to take a moment and appreciate what is right around us, I think it really changed the way that we see the world and how we act.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What about the other side? We've been talking now a lot about creativity and order, but then there's in the world those who choose to not know God, but are also almost purposefully creating chaos. I think of a lot of things. I think of the way sometimes people dress and go out there and flaunt almost even their sexuality in a way that creates chaos, and also labeling that as, well, I'm just out there, I'm like that, I'm creative, and that's almost the opposite spirit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think back to Genesis, we see God with this beautiful creative process, and He makes humans, and then our first job He gives us is to be scientists, because He's a scientist as well, and we need to categorize the animals and the plants and things. And one of the things often when I get into conversation with non-Christians and non-believers, or however they choose to term themselves. I would often refer to the second law of thermodynamics. I've never come across anybody that knows what it is that doesn't believe in it. And this second law, first law of thermodynamics is around energy, and it says that energy cannot be created. It can just move from one state to another. Like you have potential energy, and it gets used up. And when that happens, that process of it going from a potential source that can power things to like a served out source, like when coal gets burnt,
Yes.
that process is called entropy. And the second law says that entropy can only increase in a closed system unless somebody or something steps into it. So that's almost the natural flow, how things will go. Things will go from being organized to chaos,
Yes.
or being really useful to moving into the space where it isn't. And you mentioned sexuality. I think we're seeing that in the world, where it's started and it's just snowballing and at this place where we go like, where's this going to end?
Yeah,
kind of thing.
exactly.
And that's pretty much just the entropy increasing. And that I would say is the natural flow of things, unless, like in Genesis 1, somebody steps in or something steps in, and like God steps into that process and stops the entropy and creates order and make it useful. We as agents of the kingdom, we have that same charge to do that, to move into spaces and bring the order. When Jesus prays, "Let your kingdom come here on earth as it is in heaven," that's basically what he's saying, and it's very practical. It's you and me going like, in this room, the entropy can only increase unless I do something.
Wow.
It's a call to action for
Yes.
us to do that, and often in those conversations with people that are struggling with faith, when that penny drops, it changes everything for them. When you go like, but why do bad things happen? Well, because the entropy can only increase.
Yes.
It's a natural law in this broken world. But we have a wonderful, powerful, resurrected, eager to get involved God
Yes.
that wants to step into those situations.
Yeah, this is a conversation that we could take on for a while yet. But hopefully it's got your juices flowing and got you thinking about the world around you, got to think about yourself, how you express your creativity, and maybe it's not something that you do so well that it could become a job, like Barry Stander from the Oaks Collective. You might just be someone that expresses himself through the way you do your gardening, or the way that you order things in your kitchen, or the ornaments on your mantelpiece. Like just get creative and just let yourself create.
Yes, absolutely. And once you've created that beautiful order in your kitchen, it's amazing how often we see worship associated with food. So don't underestimate the worshiping, glorifying power of cooking something good.
Yes. And that's another place to be creative. You see, this is a conversation you can't just end, but we have to, because we've come to the end of things. But as we always say, but wait, there's more. It's been a pleasure connecting with you, Barry. Thanks for joining us here in the studio.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It's been lovely.
Yeah, Barry Stander, creative and technical director at the Oaks Collective. And so Barry decided to bring somebody along who he thought would be a very good photographer for today. Hallo Almarie.
Hierdie voel ongelooflik spesiaal en vreemd op dieselfde tyd.
Ja.
Baie goeiemôre.
Lek-
En Barry, baie dankie dat jy my
Ja, welkom hier op my
saamgebring het.
program, Almarie. Is lekker om jou hier te hê.
Yeah, nice having you along all the way from the Oaks. So it's different from when the last time you were in the studio, right, Almarie?
Absoluut. Ek wil net eers vir elke luisteraar en vir die hele span sê, julle spasie lyk ongelooflik. So as mense nou nog nie 'n draai gemaak het nie, moet hulle. En weet jy Brad, soos wat jy en Barry praat, is dit vir my ook ekstra wonderlik om weer te dink, dat al is ek nou betrokke by 'n ander span, die oorvleeling van wat ons almal doen,
Ja, mens kan
dit
dit hoor.
connect ons op die einde van die dag. So dit voel eintlik vir my of jy en Barry mekaar ook al baie lank ken. En as dit nou kom by kreatiwiteit waar ek nou is, wil ek net vir jou sê die Here het definitief met party bietjie ekstra tyd geneem. Soos byvoorbeeld hierdie man wat hier sit en die res van die span daai kant. Maar ja, ek dink ek wou ook net genoem het, dit het my laat dink aan een keer toe ek in Thailand was, maar dit het glad nie goed gegaan met die verhouding saam met die persoon wat ek daar was die dag nie. En ons sit en ons kyk vir 'n sonsondergang, maar my hart is so seer, maar ek besef toe ek kan absoluut niks eintlik vir die Here bied nie. Dit gaan meer daaroor om hom regtig net te verheerlik deur heeltyd daai kreatiwiteit wat hy vir ons ook gee in die natuur in te drink en in te neem. En jy weet, ek dink vir my het ek besef dat kreatiwiteit is een van daai goed wat ons, jy kan dit nie self skep nie. Die Here het kreatiwiteit, hy is die kreatiewe een,
Ja.
maar hoe reflekteer ons dit weer terug vir ander mense, is die vraag. En Barry, jy het dit ook eendag gesê, ek meen, as ons vat hoe is Rihanna met stelsels en sisteme daar by ons, dis 'n ander vorm van kreatiwiteit en ek dink ons kyk baie keer vas daar in die visuele vorm daarvan. Maar ja, ek wil net vandag ook vir elke luisteraar wat dalk nog my stem herken sê, dit is heerlik om saam met jou te kuier. En ek hoop net dat hulle vandag aangemoedig gaan voel om te weet, maak nie saak of jy daai huis besig is om te vee nie. Dit gaan daaroor verheerlik jy die Here, want dit is hoe ons weer sy kreatiwiteit ook vir ander mense terugreflekteer.
Thanks, Anne-Marie. Hello, Anne-Marie, says Andre. It was a matter of time.
Andre.
Hello, says Musa. Great to hear your voice, Anne-Marie. What a beautiful conversation. Let's go and be co-creators with Jesus. And of course, Tinka says, Ek was reg, that's Anne-Marie. Well done, Tinka. Barry, thanks for your time this morning. Value it so much.
Thank you. Looking forward to our next conversation.
Yeah, let there be
Seems
many
like
more.
There should be more.
I tend to agree with you. Anne-Marie, lekker dat jy saam gekuier het. Dankie dat jy kom kuier het.
Baie
En foto's
dankie,
geneem het.
Brad. Dit is 'n groot plesier en die mense wat volg kan maar net nou kyk, julle sal daar wees.